If you haven't already, go watch part 1 and 2, link in the description. After winning the historic treble in 1999, the expectations for the next season were set very high, and although they didn't repeat the treble, they managed to win the league by a comfortable 10 points. However, this would prove to be the only trophy they won that season after defeats to West Ham, Sunderland and Bayern Munich to knock them out of other competitions. Throughout the early 2000s, Sir Alex was given the difficult task of trying to transition the squad. As the years progressed, that 1999 squad kept getting older, meaning new, fresh legs were needed in the team. He sold the likes of Teddy Sheringham, Jaap Stam and Andy Cole in 2001, Ronnie Jensen and Dennis Irwin in 2002, and the list goes on. And whilst getting rid of these old players, getting new players like Van Nistelrooy, Diego Forlan, Rio Ferdinand, etc, etc. During this period of phasing out older players and phasing in younger players, there's a short spell of poor performances. In the 01-02 season, United finished third, winning no trophies for the first time since 1989. At the start of that season, Sir Alex announced that he would retire from football management after over 12 years at the club. However, after words from his wife Kathy as well as his 3 children, Sir Alex decided to stay on for a few more years, which was a good idea as they bounced back the next season, bringing the league back to Old Trafford once again. Over the next few years, the title race was between 3 teams, Man United, Arsenal and Chelsea, who have just been bought by Roman Abramovich. It wasn't going to be easy for United to keep up. However, it was lucky for them they stumbled across 2 young talents, one from Portugal and one from England, that would change the course of United's ways forever. And their names? You don't need them. You already know who I'm talking about. A young Cristiano Ronaldo and a 19-year-old Wayne Rooney. Both signed in 2002 and 2004, this duo would go on to stir up not only the league, but the entire world of football. However, it wasn't their time to shine yet. Instead, it was Van Nistelrooy who was taking centre stage. He kept scoring goal after goal after goal, being United's top scorer not once, not twice, but 5 times. He was a key player in keeping United at the top throughout the early to mid 2000s. A mix of him, Park Ji-sung, Rooney, Ronaldo and more. It was obvious that this reformation of United was nearing completion, and after a few extra transfers like Michael Carrick, Nani, Anderson, United were fully loaded and ready to enter the 07-08 season, wanting to accomplish something that nobody has ever done before. Win the historic English treble for a second time. They were still the only club at the time to ever win the English treble. Winning it twice would practically cement them as the best English club to ever exist. And in all fairness, they had the perfect team. Van der Sar between the sticks, a ruthless back 4 of Evra, Vidic, Ferdinand and West Brown, a creative and unpredictable midfield of Scholes, Carrick and Hargreaves, and in my opinion the greatest front 3 to ever grace the Premier League, Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney and Carlos Tevez. Their campaign didn't start very strongly, however. Within 3 games they sat 17th after failing to win their first few games. However, their form picked up and by October they had climbed their way back up to first position, which is where they mostly stayed up until the last day, where a 2-0 win against West Ham gifted them yet another league title. Meanwhile, in the Champions League, they were gripped with Roma, Sporting and Dynamo Kiev. They breezed past the group, setting up a round of 16 tie against Lyon. Despite struggling in the first leg thanks to an 18-year-old Karim Benzema, they got the better of the French side and moved on to the next round where they rematched Roma, just like the last time they comfortably beat them across both legs, and thus creating a semi-final clash against Spanish giants Barcelona. Now when I say this Barca team was stacked, I mean stacked. Valdez, Puyol, Yaya Toure, Iniesta, Xavi, Eto'o, Henry, and the main man himself, Lionel Messi. This was by far their hardest opponent yet, and that became apparent rather quickly. United managed to hold a draw at the Camp Nou, and miraculously managed to win at Old Trafford 1-0 thanks to a wonder goal from Paul Scholes to book their place in the Champions League final against Chelsea. It was fairly even in terms of lineups. I mean, they had the likes of Lampard, Drogba, Cech, Terry, Ballack, Cole and more. The game kicked off and I was made aware pretty quickly that United were the more dominant side, and sure enough, in the 26th minute, Ronaldo leaped up for a header and managed to score the opening goal, bringing United one step closer to not only their third Champions League, but their second treble. United kept pushing throughout the first half just to look for that second goal. However, it was near impossible to break through Chelsea's impeccable back four. Just as the first half is about to come to an end, a huge fault at the back line lets Lampard scoop up the ball and put it in the back of the net to level the score. Evidently, this goal shook United, as at the start of the second half, Chelsea were piling on the mountains of pressure. However, thanks to Ferdinand and Vidic, they managed to hang on until full time, where the score would stay level, forcing it into extra time. The first half kicked off and nothing happened. The second half kicked off and, well, Drogba got sent off in the last few minutes of extra time. However, they only had to play a couple minutes without him as the full-time whistle blew, forcing the game into a penalty shootout. All they had to do was score. Tevez stepped up, scored. Ballack stepped up, scored. Carrick stepped up, scored. Belletti stepped up, scored. Ronaldo stepped up, missed. The heart of Manchester dropped. Lampard then stepped up, scored. Hargreaves stepped up, scored. Cole stepped up, scored. Nani stepped up, scored. John Terry stepped up. All he had to do was put it into the net to create history and crown Chelsea champions of Europe for the very first time. Yeah, he fell on his ass. Anderson stepped up, scored. Kalu stepped up, scored. Giggs stepped up, scored. Anelka stepped up, saved. They had done it. Against all odds, they'd beaten their English rival and been the first club ever to win 2 trebles. Hold on a second, you're forgetting something. Oh yeah, United began their FA Cup campaign at Villa Park, beating Aston Villa thanks to goals from Ronaldo and Rooney. They moved on to face Spurs, who they managed to humiliate 3-1 thanks to a Ronaldo brace. They faced Arsenal in round 5 in what proved to be their hardest, most challenging game yet. Or so they thought. United destroyed Arsenal 4-0. They were on a demolition derby. All they had to do was beat Portsmouth to progress to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. It's Portsmouth. So yeah, after all this work, their historic treble was cut short from Portsmouth. Despite this, it was still one of the club's most successful seasons ever. But the question was now, what would happen next? Well, lucky for them, the next season followed a very similar path. They won the league with ease, as well as the Club World Cup, League Cup and the Community Shield. They made it to the semi-finals of the FA Cup before being knocked out to Everton on penalties. But all the attention was set on the Champions League. They cruised their way through the competition, beating Inter, Porto and Arsenal to book a place in their second Champions League final in a row, against potentially the strongest Barcelona side ever. However, unlike last year, luck wasn't on their side. After goals from Eto'o and Messi, Man United lost the final 2-0 in what proved to be the final game for Ronaldo at United, as he would go on to join Real Madrid a couple weeks later for a record-breaking £80 million. This set a brand new problem for United. How were they going to perform without their main man? And sure enough, the next season was more of a struggle. They lost the league by a single point to Chelsea and were humiliated in the FA Cup, losing the League One side Leeds. However, despite this, they still played relatively well, with Rooney scoring 34 goals that season. The next few seasons followed a similar path. They were still playing relatively well, however they couldn't recreate that 2008 squad as well as their successes. They won the league 3 times over the next 4 years, with that one year being lost on the final day thanks to Aguero's last minute goal. Despite not being able to win another FA Cup or League Cup, they managed to go all the way through the 2010-2011 Champions League knockouts to rematch Barcelona in the final for a chance of redemption. However, this Barcelona side was even stronger than before, and quite frankly, this Man United side was a bit weaker than before. And despite their best efforts, they lost 3-1 thanks to Pedro, Messi and David Villa. This brings us up to the 2012-13 season, where they secured a deal for Van Persie in that summer from Arsenal for £24 million, and it's safe to say that this was one of the best decisions the club could have ever made. He went on to score 26 league goals, helping United retain the title once again. However, little did they know that this is the last league title that they would win in over a decade. The end of that season also saw the end of Sir Alex Ferguson's reign at United. After 1,500 games, 895 wins and 38 trophies, Sir Alex left Old Trafford and is still considered by far the best manager the club has ever had, and potentially the best manager football has ever seen. But there was a bigger question now looming. Who would replace him? Sir Alex decided on Everton manager at the time David Moyes to be his predecessor. Little did he know that this would be the beginning of over 10 years of chaos for the club. David Moyes came in at the start of the 13-14 season. He started, well, awfully. Players fell out with him and he got sacked. Louis van Gaal came in next. He did pretty well in his first season and even won an FA Cup in his second. However, the players fell out with him and he got sacked. Jose Mourinho came through the doors next. He did brilliantly in his first season, winning the Community Shield, League Cup and Europa League, and in the second season he came second in the league. However, the third season started poorly, the players fell out with him, and guess what? He got sacked. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came in next. He came a respectable third place in his first full season and second in the next. However, he started poor in his third, the players fell out with him, and he got sacked. See the pattern? After Ole came Erik ten Hag, who despite his rocky start brought silverware back to Old Trafford, came runners-up in the FA Cup, and came third in the league, all in his first season. However, the next season would go on to be the club's worst in decades. They finished 8th in the league, getting gripped in a disastrous Champions League campaign. However, despite all odds, managed to beat City in the FA Cup to win some more silverware, bringing us up to the present day. Where do you think they'll finish next season? Leave your predictions below, and if you haven't already, watch part 1 or part 2 by clicking either one of these here. Thank you very much for watching, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time. See ya!